What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Boy, we have been having some fun lately, haven't we? Yeah, I'm uploading a little more often now. Yeah, I've been a little busy with a couple of different things. Just trying to get some videos together. I wanted to have it all done before the end of the year, but I don't think I will. I actually wanted to do a video on like the whole war on Christmas thing, but I wanted to have that done before Christmas. I didn't get a chance to upload it, so I still might do it before the end of the year just because it's still the holiday season. But I think since Christmas is past, I don't know if it really like is fitting there. People ain't talking about Christmas, so I might leave that. And maybe if they start talking about the war on Christmas again next year, because they have for like the last 5 years, maybe if they talk about it next year, I'll talk about it. But let me know in this video if you'd like to see something like that, talking about the silly war on Christmas. So yeah, I did a video. At this point, it's probably been close to a week, maybe four days ago, on one of Candace Owens' videos from her podcast, and my intention was to do multiple videos in between this that video and the video I'm doing now. Um, but after going through some of what she said in this video, I was pretty much just as disturbed as I was listening to some of her takes in here as I was with the whole Confederate flag issue. So I don't want to go into too much detail about like the setup and everything like that. But yeah, so I wanted to talk about this today because this is actually very important. Like this video that I'm about to watch is actually, to me, it's very important with how the discourse has become between just civilians, just people, just humans, just trying to live. Um, I think this video shows just how far we have fallen in 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 our lack of civility when it comes to respecting one another. And so I want to play this video. Just pre-warning for those with a short attention span. This video is gonna be long. I've turned one and a half, like a minute and 30-second clip into a 20-minute video, so I'd expect this video to be about an hour. I'm only going to discuss about the first 10 minutes or so, 10 or 11 minutes, because that's actually the information that I'm responding to, because it has everything to do with discrimination that I wanted to talk about. Now, she may talk more about why people deserve to be discriminated against more in her video, but I think stopping it at the 11-minute mark where I looked is probably fine, because that's the first segment of her show, and I think that going further past that would begin to be redundant, and I can probably get out everything that I need to have said after before that point, or throughout the course of her talking during those 11 minutes. So without further ado, I just want to jump into this, and let's listen to what Candace Owens has to say about why some people deserve to be discriminated against. What an interesting title that is. To think, to think that a black person in America would ever have a take of why some people deserve to be discriminated against. That is mind-boggling to me. To think that somebody deserves discrimination is just crazy to me. But at the same time, it's a matter of perspective, because do I think somebody who is openly pedophilic deserves to be discriminated against? Yeah, I don't think he should be a teacher. So I can kind of see in certain ways that maybe might possibly have that argument, but at the same time, I'm not rocking with it. But yeah, let's go ahead and listen to what she has to say, because I'm actually very interested in actually really, sitting down and hearing what she has to say.
Happy Monday, everybody. I'm just going to come right out and say it. I discriminate. I feel like I want to get that off of my chest. I've been thinking about it all weekend, and I want you guys to know that I discriminate. And my question of the day today is, do you discriminate? Let's talk about that. Plus, later on, we're going to be talking about the assisted suicide program. Yeah, that's getting interesting. There is a 65-year-old man in Canada who just applied to die because he's poor. And guess what? A doctor signed off on that. Yep. All that and more today,
I mean,
coming
yeah,
up on
that sounds
Candace
like
Owens.
the poor state of what we're in America. Um. So okay, let me stop really, really fast. I want to do something before we really dive into this, I know that I've already, bounced around and talked a little bit about this and that, but before we dive really into this, I want to do something. I pulled something up before I even started this video because I was like, I want to make sure that we all get to just get a good look at this. So let me exit the full screen. I pulled up the dictionary definition of discrimination for people who may not fully know or may not be that familiar with the word. Maybe they're thinking of biases and things like that. So I want us all to look at the dictionary definition of discrimination. That way, when we go into this video and listen to what she has to say, we can have that knowledge beforehand to really apply it. So the first definition is the unjust or prejudicial treatment of different categories of people, especially on the grounds of ethnicity, age, sex, or disability. And they give an example: victims of racial discrimination. Similar prejudice, bias, bigotry, intolerance, narrow-mindedness, things like that. You kind of have to have those things in order to discriminate. The second definition is recognition and understanding the difference between one thing and another. And this second definition, discrimination between right and wrong, I think that this second definition can be applied in certain circumstances. Um, because it's the idea of distinguishing things from one another. This thing, this two identical twins are standing next to each other. One has a blue shirt, one has a red shirt. The colors of their shirt are distinguishing them from one another. you know um but I think that it's tough because these two definitions can kind of have lines getting crossed with people who are, like Candace Owens is saying, is openly discriminating against people. So that's part of the reason why I wanted to make sure that I didn't go into this video with a biased mindset to immediately think, oh my God, Candace, you're saying you think people deserve to be discriminated. It's the framing of it, why some people deserve to be discriminated against, not why some discrimination is okay. If that, because even then it's still problematic as a title, as a frame. But it's like, okay, if you're just saying that you want to differentiate between one thing and another because this is your preference, that's fine. Like, everybody's got a preference. But when you say deserve to be discriminated against, you are framing it as if it is okay for you to dislike a group of people or a person based on inherent characteristics of who they are. And I think that that's important for us to go into this video with that prior knowledge. So I'm glad we looked at that. Now let's listen to her. Oh, I like her intro.
I'm already feeling lighter now that I've gotten that off of my chest. Yes,
And one more thing, I didn't get to say this in the last video because I did get a little frustrated. I actually be rocking where her fits. Like, her fashion designer kind of got the juice. I like her neck piece. I like her black top. I'm rocking with the ear, the jewels. Like, I'm rocking with her fits right now. It look, she look good. I'm trying to get better at complimenting and trying to say a positive thing before I say a negative thing. So try that out next time you have a criticism or a thing that you want to say negative towards a person. Try to think of a positive thing before you go in. I know that's super tough, but I'm getting a little better, y'all. I'm getting a little better.
I do discriminate. The left does this thing where they take words and they just make them sound bad or they make them sound good. They're very good at linguistics, right? So a bad thing that they make sound good is like abortion. They call it Planned Parenthood. And you go, oh, that's lovely. No, but actually they're killing a bunch of infants in the womb. So that's actually
That's completely false. That's not all that Planned Parenthood does. That's actually harmful misinformation. Planned Parenthood, we don't call planned abortion Planned Parenthood. Planned Parenthood does multiple medical examinations for women, mammograms and things like that. They do a lot more than just abortion. So we don't call abortion Planned Parenthood. We call abortion health care. So she's wrong on what we on the left call it, and she's wrong on what Planned Parenthood does. That is dangerous. You got to make sure that when you listen to people who don't know what they're talking about a thing, you have to be able to do your own research on something like that. Like, is Planned Parenthood abortion? Is that what they call that? Like, no, that's not. It's not true at all.
not a good thing. And then they all always have these terms. You go, what do they mean? Cisgender, heteronormative, which basically means that you're not problematic enough. And they kind of try to smear you or libel you on the basis that there's nothing wrong with you enough. And so there's just you're too perfect, you're too normal. So I'm gonna
What?
call you cisgender or whatever. And I've started thinking about this week.
No, that's not. No, what? What are you talking about, Miss Owens? No, what? No, that's not. They're not saying you're too perfect. They're just heteronormative is just a thing to describe things that are normal in hetero culture. It is. It is. We live in a heteronormative society where we've normalized heterosexual tendencies and things like that, and we made homosexual things, or bisexual things abnormal. So we live in a heteronormal society. So and then cisgender, that I believe from what I know about cisgender is just normal. Like, that's the gender. Since I don't know everything about the gender thing, so I have to preface that. But from what I know about cisgender is just like, you're the, average gender. You are straight person, straight male, straight female, cisgender. You don't, identify as something else. You don't identify as non-binary, a woman, a man. Like, you're just cisgender. You run a straight line. So I don't know where her frame. I think that her framing comes from a place of ignorance because she doesn't know what that stuff means, so she immediately gets offended by it, and that's what it looks like to me.
Weekend in terms of the word discrimination. It's become a dirty word. You're not allowed to discriminate. Oh my God, that's discrimination. You shouldn't do that. You should not
It's not a
discriminate.
dirty
And
word.
actually, quite frankly, I think we need to discriminate. I discriminate all the time, every single day.
I
And
bet
this
you
morning,
do.
I just jotted down a few examples of when I discriminate. And I'm going to share them with you so that you can feel comfortable sharing your list with your friends. Ready? I discriminate when I hire. I think that's probably illegal, but who doesn't discriminate when they
There's something that bothers me, right? If you guys know me, I love black women, and I hate that she is so pretty. I hate that because like I want to like her. I like in my brain, in my actual brain, my bias for black women is like I want to love her. Like I love outspoken, strong, like, independent thinking black women. Um but the problem with her is that I don't believe her thoughts are her own. I don't believe she's an independent thinker. I believe that she's given a lot of talking points from conservatives and right wing narratives, and I feel like it's hard. It's hard because I'm like she is beautiful. Like I just happen to sit there and be thinking while she's talking like she's gorgeous, and yeah, because I'm like even when I was just complimenting her fashion, I hadn't even thought about it, and then I just sat there and looked like that's a beautiful black woman, and it does make me a little upset that I happen to have such vast disagreements on just things that I would consider humanitarian, like just recognizing people as people kind of thing. It's so tough. Let me back it up a little bit. I got a little sidetracked because I'm like, dang, like that's but y'all know me. Those of you who follow the channel know me. I'm surprised I didn't say it in the last video.
I discriminate when I hire. I think that's
When you
probably
hire.
illegal, but who doesn't discriminate when they hire? That wouldn't even make sense, especially if I'm hiring for childcare. A woman walks through my door and she makes me uncomfortable for any reason at all. It could be any reason. I'm not going to hire her. Why would I allow this person who makes me uncomfortable watch my children? Well, we should
Okay.
discriminate. Of course, I'm going to discriminate. If she looks like a freak, she can't watch my child. It's that simple. I
Okay.
discriminate
Okay.
also.
Okay. I know there's gonna be a lot of pauses in there. So if pauses bother you, like that's how I do these videos. Is sometimes if it's a really short clip, I'll watch the whole clip and then I'll go back and break down things. But since this clip that I'm using is so long, I'm just going through the entire video and stopping it piece by piece whenever I feel like I need to say something about something she said. So let's listen to what she just said just a few seconds ago. I wanna listen to that again, and I wanna go over
This
that.
person who makes me uncomfortable watch my children. Well, we should discriminate. Of course, I'm going to discriminate. If she looks like a freak, she can't watch my child. It's that simple. I discriminate also.
Okay, so there's a lot of important things that she just said. The first thing she said is that if she's hiring somebody like a babysitter for her child, she's going to discriminate. She right there, she is using the second definition of discrimination, which is just picking and choosing, discriminating from one thing to another. You're choosing the thing that makes you feel comfortable, that you feel is best representative of what you want. We discriminate when we choose one product over another. I'm hungry for this. You discriminate between fast food restaurants. I feel like I want Wendy's today, not McDonald's. Um, so she's using the second definition of discrimination there in that context. But what she said after is if she looks like a freak, that is where it becomes the first definition of discrimination, because you're opening it up to she looks like a freak according to you, according to Miss Owens' perspective of what a freak looks like, which I don't know. It could be a woman with a lot of piercings. It could be a woman with a lot of tattoos. It could be a woman who wears a suit. I don't know what a freak looks like to Miss Owens, but when you say things like that, because the term freak has become a pejorative term for the abnormal. It is something used in a derogatory fashion for people who don't fit in with the normal, standards of society. So when you say that person is a freak, now my generation, we kind of turned it into some extra stuff because we crazy, but normally when you say somebody's a freak, it means that they don't fit in, they're a loser, they're abnormal, they're different. So when she says when she looks like a freak, that means that you are now discriminating against that person for things that they just are. So if this person has a bunch of piercings, you're going to discriminate against them because you assume that somebody with a lot of piercings worships the devil or something. That's where it becomes problematic. That's where it becomes illegal. That's where, like, legally, if you have a person who wants to go get a job, you know, they might have store policies like, no, you're not allowed to have more than 5 piercings in your face. That's fine. It's a policy. It's a store policy, but you cannot discriminate against somebody for their age, their race, their gender, their sexual orientation, their religious background, things like that. So for all we know, when Candace says she looks like a freak, it could be a woman with the hijab on. You know what I mean? It could be a woman who's Amish and comes in with her Amish garb on, So we don't know, right? But I think that is the start of a harmful precedent. When you say things like that.
So when I hire assistants, right? When I was thinking about the fact that I just had a baby and I was going to be breastfeeding, probably wasn't a good idea for me to hire a male assistant to be in my home. I wanted to be more comfortable. So I was happy to hire a young female. Emphasis on the young, by the way. People say,
once again, that's the second definition of discrimination, which is understandable. That is something I agree that we all do, and you can't say we should do it. We already do it. We naturally do it. We discriminate when we want somebody who we feel is going to represent us more. If I want somebody who's going to write for me, I may want to look for another black man who can relate to my story, to help me write a thing I'm trying to write about my life. That's discrimination, sure, but it is not disparaging something, So it's I get where she's coming from on that second definition of discrimination.
it's ageism. You're not allowed to do it. But let me be very clear. If a
That's not
80-year-old
ageism.
wants to be my assistant, I go,
A lot of pauses in this video. I'm sorry. She's using a lot of terms in a incorrect way, trying to frame it as if progressives or leftists attack people for being ageist. No, if you're looking for a young woman, as your babysitter, that's not ageist. But if you're saying that, oh, an older woman can't do this job because she's old, that's where it becomes ageist, where you're starting to discredit this older woman as if she can't do this thing. That's where it becomes ageist. Just because you're looking for a specific role, that you know what I mean. Every acting gig is discriminatory. We're looking for a young 25-year-old male to play our lead role in our movie because he's an action hero and he's got to be 170 pounds and exercise and be in good health and good shape because we want a strong guy because he's going to do some fighting and some punching and some jumping. That's discriminatory, but it's not putting down anybody of a different, weight class or anything like that. It's just, hey, this is what we're looking for to fill this position. You have to find the right puzzle piece. You have to find the right cog for your machine. So I think that she's using terms like that and trying to make it seem like people are attacking her for being ageist, which there can be, and I don't agree with them. If there are people on the left who would attack her for things like that, I don't agree with that. But yeah, I think when she uses terms like that, I gotta make sure that we understand that that was the incorrect usage of that term.
Maybe not the right person that's fit for the job, considering it's a lot of running around, it's a lot of lifting
Absolutely,
boxes, there are a lot of things that
absolutely,
need to be done. The inverse of
absolutely.
that is that for childcare, I actually like older women, right? So I
As many of us
discriminate in
do.
favor of somebody who is 65. I quite literally have a woman that helps on the weekend. She's got 9 grandchildren. She's seen it all. I am favorable. I discriminate favorably toward older people that have tons of grandchildren. I
Right.
feel safer in that way. There are small discriminations. You discriminate when you choose a restaurant. They know that. That's why they built Yelp.
I literally used that example earlier. So we're on the same page here. We are on the same page here when it comes to the discrimination of picking and choosing between things that you want in that moment or things that you feel like fit best of what you're looking for. That's totally, yeah. I'm right there
People put
with
up
you.
their photos. I go,
Who would have thought I'd see the day where I agree with Candace Owens on something? Huh.
that doesn't look good. I don't want to eat here. Restaurant looks a little dirty. I don't like the lighting
Okay, okay. I'm gonna let her
in
finish
here. I
her
don't want to
point, but
eat
this is
here.
this is
I
interesting.
discriminate. I discriminate when I pick my friends.
So, do you see what she just did there? I think this is an important part about when she starts to use discriminate because at one moment I'll be like I'm with you. And then the next moment so she's literally switching back and forth between the two definitions of discriminate. She's going from just picking and choosing saying, "Oh, I feel like I want McDonald's today." She didn't just do that. She said, "This restaurant looks a little dirty. That food doesn't look very good." That's where it becomes the first. It starts to lean more towards the first definition because now you're disparaging the other one. You're saying that that restaurant looks dirty to you, whereas it maybe if you have OCD, a speck on the floor can be dirty. Oh, the cook's got some stains on it on his apron. To me, when I see that, I'm like, oh, that man been bussing. He probably makes some good food. You know. So it's like when you see the lunch lady and she got that underarm fat. You like, oh, she makes some good greens. But sometimes some people might see that and be like, I don't want to eat her food. She unhealthy. So it's that leaning where it becomes I want Wendy's today. But that don't mean that just because if I'm picking between Wendy's and McDonald's that I gotta be like, nah, I don't want McDonald's because they stink in there. They people unfriendly. They ice cream machine always broke. They ain't broke. They ain't got no ice. They don't even got service in there. They parking lot packed. They don't even clean up. They restaurant. They bathroom stink. Like that's where it becomes you just disparaging this other place. Like you can like and have a preference for what you want, but that doesn't mean you get to disparage the other option. You know what I mean? Like that's where it becomes problematic for me.
I look at a girl and I'm just like, she's got something wrong with the eyes, a little crazy in the eyes. I don't know. I just don't want to be friends with her. She just looks like she's unstable. The girl tells me, I take Xanax every time I have a feeling. And I go, okay, that's really great. I just don't want to be friends with you. I don't say it to them, but I think
Okay, that's fine, but like that's fine. You don't have to be friends with everybody. Nobody is forcing you to be friends with everyone, Candace. Like I don't want to be friends with everybody. That doesn't mean that I'm not friendly. Like you discriminate. Yeah, of course you're going to discriminate who you want to be friends with. Like but that's the thing. Like doesn't mean you have to be a dick to the person who might want to be your friend. Like.
thinking it. I'm thinking you seem a little undone. I don't want to be friends with you. I also
But what she keeps doing is she keeps insulting the other party. She's like she's got a little crazy in her eye. What does that mean? What does it mean that she's got? I know when somebody got a little crazy in their eye. I know that. I know what you mean. So I get it, but it just seems weird because you're just like you seem a little undone. Is that really like the people who take Xanax are a little undone? It just the framing of it is so weird to me where it just seems like she keeps trying to bury this other side and just bad like oh no they are crazy like no like maybe you don't have to have a reason to not want to be their friend. You can just be like nah, I ain't really into making friends. I'm cool with the friends I got. That's fine. Nobody's like what, you don't want a hug, you don't want a sharing, it's caring, it's Care Bears. No, that's not. That's we don't care.
also discriminate when I'm around people and they just have that victim mentality, telling, oh, it's just really hard out there for a black person. Oh, you know how it is being a
Ugh.
woman and just like men. I think I don't really know how it is, and I don't want to
Yes,
be
you
friends
do.
with you
Yes,
because
you
I think
do.
a victim mentality is poisonous, and I don't want to catch that poison.
What do you mean? You don't catch a victim mentality poison for one, and two, coming from the person who sued her school for racial discrimination, you don't get to talk about what it means to be a black person in America and try to disparage that. You went through it. You went through racial discrimination and sued your school and won. You won. You won your case. So it's weird that you like this victim mentality. It's hard to be. It is harder to be a black person than it is to be like a white person. Like that's because there are struggles that black people will go through that white folks will not have to go through. That is backed up by our entire history. So if you're a white person, you're like, oh, I have it rough too. Absolutely. Granted, when black people say we have it harder than white people, that does not mean that white people don't have it hard. There are plenty of white people who have it rough, 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 terrible. But that does not take away from the fact that when that white person encounters police officers, their first thought is, am I going to live through this? You know, that's not how that goes for them. So there are things like when that black person goes into a store. This happened to me a few years ago. I was walking around my gas station, and I was being followed around by the gas station clerk who left her cashier, who left her register. She was the only register worker. She was the only cashier. She left her register with people in line to follow me around the gas station that I'm always at. I'm always in there. I'm always in there buying candy. I used to go in there and always buy my these Sour Patch Exploders, some of my favorite candies at the time. And I used to go in there and I used to buy a pack of them, maybe a Powerade, and I was looking for my Sour Patch, and she comes and she starts following me around, and she's literally just standing there. She's just standing there next to me. Got a register open, full of people in line waiting for her to come back, and she's just standing next to me. And I'm like, can I help you? And she's like, oh, I just needed to fix this a little bit. Starts ruffling around with a little bit of candy and then walks back to the register. And like that, that's how stuff is. Like a lot of white people, when I tell them that, they're like, wow, really that happened? I can't believe that. Yes, this is the reality for people. So when you say this victim mentality, black people are not running around going, oh, woe is me. Black people are not doing that, for one. And two, the idea that, you don't want to catch that poison. What you think when you're around black people that all of a sudden you're going to start talking about the struggles that you actually went through as a black person? Like, it's nonsensical to me, because for somebody who went through the things that she went through, and the fact that she actually went and took legal action because of the racial issues that she went through, and the trauma that she suffered dealing with the racial issues she went through, like, it just feels so hypocritical, because she just had to find a way to throw a jab at black people. You just had to find a way to throw a jab at. This wasn't even related to that specifically, but you just had to find victim mentality, black people. Really? Are white people incapable of having a victim mentality? Like, oh, it's just black people. It's just black people. Like, it's just weird how she associated victim mentality with black people. That bothers me. Um, so I don't know. That it just another moot point. From when it comes to racial interaction from Candace Owens.
And if it needs to be said, you should discriminate when you date. If he looks like an axe murderer, don't date him. You know what I'm
What does
talking
an
about.
axe
Just
murderer
look, they
look
have.
like? I mean, I get it. If he look like Leatherface, then yeah, maybe you don't want to go give him a shot. But it's just weird. Like when you say stuff like that, he looks like an axe murderer. Like you're once again going based off your perception. You might look at a guy and be like, "Oh, he looks creepy," where other women might be like, "He just has a mustache." Like, I like mustaches actually. Looks like Walker Texas Ranger or something like that. Like to me, it's just like saying stuff like that is so silly.
Have a look. I'm like, you do look like you would potentially kill me and hide my body and potentially get away with it. And for that reason, there will not be a second date.
She's got
It's
a
that
great
simple.
imagination.
By the way, men
But I get
also
it though.
discriminate, and there are biological reasons for the reason they discriminate. I read this in a book by E.O. Wilson. He also wrote it in papers. When they see a woman that has a smaller waist and wide hips, the storied hourglass figure, what it signals to a male is that she has good fertility. It's that simple. They look and they go, I think I could probably get that pregnant. And there is something happening in your body that you're thinking about procreation, and they discriminate in favor of a certain shape. And women discriminate too.
True and also not true. That example works more on an average scale. There are a lot of men who look at the hourglass figure and they're like me personally, the hourglass figure's cool. I think it's attractive, but it's not like, oh, me man, me want hump hourglass figure. That's not. But it is going to be something that you see and it's like, oh, that is attractive. But that doesn't mean it's the only thing that's attractive. So it doesn't mean that I'm going to discriminate against a woman who's got who's a little bigger, or even a little more on the petite side, doesn't got wide hips, big booty, big boobies, like, but she's on the petite side. Even somebody of Candace Owens' build, but Candace Owens seems like she's on the slimmer side. Like, she doesn't have an hourglass figure, but, she's got a husband, who clearly finds her attractive. I even just complimented on how attractive she was. And, that ain't got nothing to do with her hourglass figure. So it's just a weird example. It does hold on like more of an average spectrum of like, an average guy might look at that figure and be like, yeah, I think she's attractive. But I think to go that far and just make it seem like, oh, we're going to discriminate now against other women for that hourglass figure, I don't feel like that's true. Coming from me as a man personally and the men that I know, I don't fully believe that.
I don't want to say it. I don't mind saying it. I will say it. I did once date a very short guy and it just felt off. In mind, it was a great relationship.
You have a
I had
preference
great
for
time
not
with
short
him.
men.
But, for some reason, you want
lot of
your
women like
other as
taller
a woman
dudes.
to be taller than you. And I think men feel that too, right? There are, of course, examples of shorter men dating supermodels, and it's all good. But I think a woman likes to feel small next to a male, and a male likes to feel bigger next to a woman.
Eh, that's a whole conversation on its own. I think a lot of people, I can agree to that a lot of women want to feel like their man is bigger, stronger than them, and a lot of men want to feel bigger and stronger than their woman. Um, but I don't know. Like, once again, my generation has proved that to be kind of all over the place. Because when we got big mommy milkers and she's big and tall and strong, there's a lot of dudes who's like, hey, I'm with it, and if the woman's with it, then we with it. So I don't know, man. A lot of that stuff just doesn't seem to take. It definitely does seem like that was the case in previous generations, where like standard gender roles and standard like normal men and women relationships were based on things like that. But times are changing, and I don't really feel like that's completely accurate to a lot of men and women these days. Even my cousin, like, her boyfriend, he's shorter than her, but it's not necessarily that he's shorter than her. It's that she's a tall woman. I think she's like 5'11", so she's tall for a woman. But that doesn't necessarily mean she's unattracted to men who are shorter than her. She would prefer a dude taller than her, but she thinks like realistically, dude's taller than me, gonna be 6'3". Like it's not a big deal. So I think that there's points to what she's saying there. And we're
I
only halfway done.
definitely discriminate against men that paint their nails and wear dresses. I don't really care how you feel about that. You can wear your dress and you can paint your nails, but I'd prefer you keeping 100 feet away from a playground and all of the feet away from my children and me. If I see you, I'm going to cross the street if I'm with my kids. Oh, Candace, it's not
What? Candace. Give me a headache. Um. So what? Playground? So what are you talking about? I'm tired. I'm only. Come on, we got 5 more minutes. Come on. I said I would reply to everything. I had to breathe. Um. Yeah. So she's saying that if I discriminate against men who paint their nails and wear dresses, and I want them 100 feet away from any park, as if men who paint their nails and wear dresses are just camping out at playgrounds. Like, where are the children at? Like, that's not happening. What fantasy world are you living in? Like, I know dudes who paint their nails and they stay at home. They just be chilling. Like, I play Apex with a dude who paints his nails. I don't care. We play the game. Like, it's just weird. And then she's like, I want you to keep your distance from my children. What are they doing? They don't want to be around your kids. Why? I don't understand. And then it's like, if I see you, I'm crossing the street. That's where it becomes the first definition of discrimination. You are now discriminating against that person for things that you visually associate to equal bad. It's like, oh, he's got nail. Like, and then it's like if you see a dude with his nails painted, why are you looking for that? You're walking down the street with your kids, and then you see a dude, and you see his hands. He's got black nail polish. Oh, I'm crossing the street. He's a bad one. What? He probably not even looking at you. It's just this weird fantasy land that I feel like she lives in, where she feels like if she walks by this guy with nail polish on, and perhaps he's got one of those. I remember what was that trend, a romper. Dudes was wearing rompers and they was trying to make it masculine. It was hilarious. But if he's got that on, it's like, oh, nope. Like, as if you walk by him, he's not gonna turn around and be like stalking your kids. Like, this is fantasy land, because you have to recognize that a lot of these people they're just people. They're just normal people living their life. They're not bothering you, you're not bothering them. So the idea that you're going out of your way to discriminate against somebody who odds are ain't even looking at you, they don't even know you exist, not even paying attention to you, like, I'm across the street. That's where it becomes. So language like this makes it okay to hate. It makes it okay to say, oh, I don't like, dudes who wear dresses or dudes who paint their nails. It makes it okay. It's trying to normalize hatred. It's trying to normalize dislike of somebody else for simple, stupid things that are just irrelevant to your life. That person painting his nails has nothing to do with you. Maybe they just like nail polish. Maybe they just like colors. Like, it's just weird when you're using that kind of language to attack. And I froze it on such a funny face, and I didn't mean to. Just now peeped it. But yeah, when you use language like that, it just is trying to make it seem like, oh, it's cool. I don't like him at all. I hate him. He paints his nails. To me, that's stuff that pedophiles do. Is it? Like, because is there a standard behavior for pedophiles? Like, because from what I know, people who be doing some crazy stuff like that, they go through all types of crazy stuff. So it's just weird that you just associate these things with such negative things, and then you make it seem like, oh, like, as if. And it's weird how she tries to seem like she puts herself on this moral high horse, where it's like, oh, you don't get to come around me and my children. Ew. Like, what? Who are you? It's just weird to me.
Accepting, we need to be more accepting of the people, the men who like to wear panties. I'm good.
You don't have to be accepting of them. Just don't be an asshole. I don't even cuss, but that made me cuss. Just don't be a dick about it. You don't have to speak ill of them. You don't have to like that they're doing stuff you don't agree with. You don't have to like that they're wearing. If he wants to wear panties, mind your damn business. We don't care. I don't care if let him do what he gonna do. He happy. Let him be happy. Like, it's just, yeah. Just, if you don't like it, that's fine. That's where it becomes the second the definition of discrimination. You don't have to like it, but you don't have to be a dick about what that person is doing because you don't like it. It's just annoying.
You can be more accepting of it. You run that risk when you see a guy who looks like a freak and you're with your children and
run that
to
risk.
be accepting,
He looks like a freak.
Put my kids next to him.
Who's doing that? Who's doing it? I don't. What are you talking about? Who's just my eyeballs? She's driving me crazy. Who's just like, here, have my kids? Nobody's doing that. Nobody's doing that, Candace. Nobody's doing that. Nobody's just like, hey, man, strange man I've never met. It doesn't matter if he has nail polish on or not. He could just be a regular dude in a uniform, and just doesn't matter. Nobody's just having their kids and walking them down the street and like, hey, strange man, here, take my kids. You want to go to the park with my kids? Guy I never met before, girl I never met before? Here you go, carry my children to the playground. Nobody's doing it. Nobody does that.
I'm not going to be that person.
That's not what it means to be accepting of others. It doesn't mean you have to just trust them with your whole life. Like, that's not. Ugh.
I'm going to go, that looks weird, and I'm going to move away from it. It's that simple. And by the way, speaking of that sort of discrimination, literally any person, no matter how normal they look, if they are at the playground when I take my kids and they're by themselves, I'm like, red flag, get my kid away from that. Why are you at the playground by yourself?
How often does that happen? How often do you just see a person alone at a playground? And then if that's the case, why are you there? So irritated because these points are so stupid and they're non-existent. You literally like, and this I've said this in a video before, where they create a boogeyman, they create an enemy that doesn't exist, and then they go to war with it. Like, so what they do is they create a boogeyman, and then they'll be like, oh, the left does that, what that boogeyman does, they do that. And the left is like, do what? What are you talking about? They paint their nails and they chase children at parks. Like, I ain't been to a park since I was 6. Like, it's just funny because it's like, what are you talking about? Like, how often do you go to a playground and just see just a person there by themselves? It's just weird. It's just weird.
So there's no scenario.
But keep pausing it. If you did see a person who was just by themselves at a playground with no kids running to them or anything like that, because the whole thing is like, a parent might be at the playground by themselves and they might be sitting at a bench and their kid might be running around the playground. So if you look over and you see that guy is reading a newspaper or on his phone and he's by himself, you can't look at him and assume he's there at the playground by himself, because his kid or kids might be playing at the playground. So it's just
or you should just be an adult at a playground by yourself, especially if you're a male.
Nobody's
You suddenly
advocating
have
for
eyes
that.
on them, and I'm watching them near the other kids. Just feels wrong. It's a healthy discrimination for me. I discriminate against doctors, dentists, trainers. I don't want a dentist with bad teeth. I don't want Lizzo being my trainer. If you want her to be your trainer, have
What a weird dig at Lizzo. And then, what? Like, a dentist with bad teeth? That. So, okay, listen. If you want to discriminate against a dentist because he has bad teeth, fine. I don't care. Nobody's trying to force you to go to a certain dentist. Nobody's forcing you to get personal training from Lizzo. Nobody's forcing you to do that. Nobody's being like, but if you're saying that I don't want Lizzo training me because she's overweight, I don't care. I really don't care. Do I think it's kind of a dick move because I think Lizzo is actually like a person who is overweight, but she's actually does a lot of things that people who are in good weight probably can't do? Can people sing and dance and jump around on stage for a few hours and do that day in and day out all the time? I think they'd be winded by then. So I don't know. You know what I mean? There's things she can do that other people can't do. So I don't know. I think that is kind of narrow-minded to say those things, you know, which fits the first definition, the first adjacent definition, you know, being narrow-minded. I think it's very, very narrow-minded of her to say things like that, because a dentist who has bad teeth, maybe he had an upbringing where he was just allowed to eat candy all the time and it messed his teeth up, but because of that he wanted to become a dentist so people's teeth didn't end up being messed up like his teeth were. You know what I mean? So to me, when you say things like this, it's judgmental immediately. There's a difference between discriminating between two things and just being judgmental. You're being judgmental to where you're saying you're adding context to somebody else's circumstance. So you're saying he has bad teeth, therefore he doesn't take good care of his mouth. That is a simple, easy way to do that, but you don't know the history behind that. You don't know the background behind that. Perhaps he had used to chew tobacco in his teenage years and got over the habit, but he did mouth damage. You know what I mean? Like, you don't know. So when you're judgmental and you discriminate in this fashion where Candace says it's healthy for her, it's healthy for her because it makes her feel good about herself. It's healthy for her because she gets to put herself on a pedestal above others. And then when she finds other people who she feels are on her level, it gets to make her feel even better about it because they most likely judge people the way she does, you know. So it's very harmful to have this kind of mindset and to implore other people to engage in a narrow-minded mindset like that.
ever be your trainer. I am going to discriminate against somebody that is that clinically obese saying that they're going to get me healthy. I am good on that. So all I was to say is obviously discrimination is built into us for a reason. It's a survival mechanism, right? We want to survive. And so when we get that feeling, my mother used to refer to it as the heebie-jeebies, when someone just gives you the heebie-jeebies, even if you can't quite put your finger on why, I think you need to lean into that.
No, no. See, listen, I think that that's okay to a degree, because people fear what they don't understand and they fear what they don't know. So you might get the heebie-jeebies from somebody who looks like they're emo or goth, like they're in the gothic stuff, and that gives you the heebie-jeebies because you don't understand what that culture is about. So you're like, I'm gonna keep my distance and I'm gonna go where I'm comfortable. what's funny about this is because Candace is literally advocating for people to find a safe space. You're advocating for people to have safe spaces. You're advocating for them to lean into their prejudices and their biases and the things that make them feel comfortable. So you're telling them to lean into the discriminatory practices that they implement, because when they discriminate, they go in the direction where they're familiar, where they're comfortable. So you're around, people who they might be a little hood, they might sag their pants a little bit, and you're like, that makes me uncomfortable. I don't want to be around that, you know, and you keep your distance. But you might go over there and they might be having a cookout, and they might be like, hey, we got ribs. And you might have the best ribs you ever had in your life from these dudes who you were prejudiced against 5 minutes ago because you was uncomfortable because you didn't understand them. And I think that that's a problem, right? Is because when you tell people to lean into their discriminations and to lean into their prejudices and their biases, that narrow-minded thinking is not helping the country come together. It does not help communities come together and learn from one another. It literally provides room for people to divide themselves into tribes in the echo chambers so they can all be and feel like one another and feel good off of one another instead of trying to lean into one another. So I don't like that. I don't agree with that.
Actually think that society would be safer if we discriminated more. What's happening now is insanity because they're telling us to accept
Wrong.
everything. To say, oh, it's just
Wrong. And the reason why that's wrong is because society, as we have founded it, requires us to interact with one another. So the more divided we become, the less we know about one another, and ignorance leads to violence. So if you're ignorant of another culture and all you have is people like Candace Owens telling you harmful things that the other side is doing, and people accept that and people are calling gay people groomers now. How harmful is that kind of language where you think that gay people are actually grooming children and they're grooming them to be their sexual partners or to be gay or whatever. Whatever you think that they're doing, you think that they're hurting kids. So in your mind it's justifiable to stop them, to harm them, to hurt them so they don't do it anymore. You won't hurt no more kids. If you knew more about that culture, you wouldn't think like that. So what she's advocating for, to me, is setting a dangerous precedent. I keep freezing her on the funniest faces.
so it's fine. He just has a fetish. He likes to wear panties. Who am I talking about? Well, among other people, Sam Brinton. You guys remember this guy?
Okay, what? Why are you mad that a person has a fetish and he wants to wear panties? Like, you won't know. If a dude has a panty fetish and wants to wear panties, you're not gonna know. He's not walking around outside in panties. You're not gonna know. So a weird point, like a really weird point. Like, you're not going to know most of people's fetishes. Like, most people aren't running around talking about I like feet. Like, they're not doing that. I say that because yesterday on stream, or the day before yesterday on stream, I was commenting about how I didn't understand the whole feet thing. It was like really strange how it was so popular, and I'm like, I don't get it. I don't know. But yeah, so that was where that example comes from.
He served as the Energy Department under the Biden administration, the Deputy Assistant Secretary for Spent Fuel and Waste Disposition since June. He's been serving in that position. And if you remember the photos of him when he was first elected, he looked like a crazy person. In this one photo, he is wearing a long yellow gown and
That's
red
actually hard.
lipstick, and he's on a orange carpet, smiling. In this next photo, he
That fit goes hard. Like, I don't really know what you mad about. It is kind of fire. From just a fashion perspective, fit goes hard.
is wearing
You said he looks like a crazy person. How does this look like a crazy
stick, and
person?
he's on a
Crazy. I don't know. We definitely got two different definitions of crazy. Cause I've seen crazy. I know crazy. This don't look like a crazy person to me. This look like a person who, matter of fact, they look happy as hell. They look comfortable. I don't know.
orange carpet, smiling. In this next photo,
You talk about how he's smiling. He
is
looks happy.
wearing a red dress, a red gown. He has
I don't like
chunky
that dress
jewelry
as
on,
much.
again, red lipstick, and his bald head. And people were like, "Oh my God, diversity! It's amazing." It gets creepier. Here he is in stilettos that I wouldn't even wear, really tall stilettos. A sky-high thigh slit. He has on bunnies, and it looks to be a Playboy shoot. It's got a Playboy background.
Why do you care? What does this have to do with you? I don't know if I really rock. I don't really rock with this fit either. But I mean, from a fashion perspective, yeah, I don't really rock with the fit. It is what it is. But he looks happy. He looks happy. Look, he's smiling. He looks happy as hell. Why do you care?
I think it was a Playboy shoot, and we're supposed to go, oh my God, yay, it's so inclusive, and I love it. No, when I saw it, I
No,
went,
you
I'd
don't
like to
have to do
discriminate
that.
against that.
You don't have to love that. I just said I didn't like the fit. But if they put it in a magazine, I'm probably just gonna turn the page like, eh. I'm not gonna get mad and be like, why is he on the magazine? I don't care. I'd like to discriminate against that. You would by turning the page. Like you're not gonna sit there and look at it and gawk over it. You don't care. Like what you clearly care because you're wanting to somehow discriminate against that. You want that person to not be able to wear what he was clearly very happy wearing.
Yeah, I wouldn't like my tax dollars to go toward that. I just feel like that person needs to
Your
stay
tax
away
dollars
from me
aren't
and my
going to that.
family. I don't want them in any positions of power. Just I
You
don't
want
want to
wait,
invest in
what?
that. And
I'm talking and
no, when
I'm
I saw it,
interrupting
I
you.
went, I'd like to discriminate against that. Yeah, I wouldn't like my tax dollars to go toward that. I just feel
It's
like
not
that
going
person
toward
needs to
that.
stay away from me and my family. I
For
don't want them in any
what?
positions of power. Just I don't want to invest.
What do you think that person is going to do in a position of power? The person is just living their self, like they're living their own life. That person is not after you and your family. You want him to stay away from you and your family. He didn't make any claims that he was I'm coming to you, coming to get you, Candace, coming to get your kids. Like that's where it becomes the boogeyman, right? Where she's like, I don't like that, therefore I want you to stay away from me. And the person is way over there and he's like, I wasn't coming over there. Well, good, because I want you to stay away from me. Okay, I was going to stay here anyway. Good, you stay away from me, you filth. Okay, keep minding my business, I guess, before you yelled at me. Like, this is so Karen-esque. Like, you worried about what this person is doing. I don't want my tax dollars going to that. Going to what? Him wearing dresses? Because your tax dollars aren't paying for the dresses he's wearing. I'm sure that they, paid him to do the photo shoots that he was in, as how it happens in most photo shoots. A lot of times they want people to be featured in them, or if the person wants a photo shoot, they'll pay the people to be like, hey, can I be in this photo shoot? That's how it works when you're modeling. So, and Candace should know that because Candace has been paid to wear certain people's clothing and model them. Well, not necessarily model them, but to wear them. So it's just weird that she would have that take. Your tax dollars aren't going to none of that. Like, the tax dollars would be paying his salary for his job. Yeah, like, so he can do his job. Do you think that, and this is where it becomes problematic. Do you think that he can't do his job because he wears dresses? Like, do you think he can't do his job because of his sexual orientation? Because that's where it literally becomes illegal discrimination. Like, you don't have to like what he does. You don't have to accept what he does. But you can't say I don't want him to have a government position because he wears dresses. That's not cool. That's dumb. Because that's not a justifiable reason for you to think, "Oh, he doesn't need positions of power because I don't agree with his fashion." Like, that's dumb. It's dumb.
In
It's
that in
dumb
any
and
way,
it
not
sounds
even with my
dumb.
tax dollars. And it turns out that if we had that healthy dose of discrimination as a nation, that person wouldn't have been able to victimize two women because that's what he's done. You'll recall a couple of weeks ago, we covered the fact that he went to an airport, ready? He didn't check in a bag. This is in Minneapolis. He gets on a plane, he lands, and then he went to baggage claim and he snatched some young woman's luggage and he left. I don't know why he did that. The police saw it on tape. They called him and said, hey, did you take someone's luggage? And he denied it. Remember, he said, no,
Mm.
I didn't steal any luggage. That wasn't me. And then he called the police back and he said, oh, I may have accidentally taken someone's luggage. Well, that would have been quite the accident considering he didn't check in any baggage. And it was a young woman and he took her stuff, probably because he wanted her underwear. You might think, oh, weird circumstance. Well, guess what? He did it again. Yep, it has happened again. He did this at the international airport in Las Vegas, allegedly stole a suitcase with a total estimated worth of $3,670
God
on
dang.
July 6th. The
You got
police
three
were able
thousand
to
dollars
confirm
worth of
that it
stuff
was
in a
him
suitcase. What the heck?
traveling
Are
on
you the
that flight
Queen of England?
because with the victim, because he posted an Instagram post of himself wearing a shirt that had some atomic symbol on it and it was in rainbows. And because he posted this on Instagram, they were able to identify him in the footage. Again, he stole from a young woman. He checked the suitcase tag to make sure it was a woman's, and then he took the luggage. Why? Because he's a freak. That's why.
Okay, Okay,
It's some weird high stakes game. He has a weird.
okay. So so is she trying to say that if he didn't get the job that he had, that he wouldn't have been able to steal people's luggage? Because yeah, he probably still would have been able to do that had he not had the job he had. Like if he was going to be stealing luggage, he would have eventually found a way to do that. So and then it's weird how you highlight that this person stole luggage, because if you look up like statistics on how much luggage is stolen at airports, it happens a lot actually. It happens quite often. Which is why, you have the baggage claim and you have the checks and you have the tags and stuff like that. Because people be getting their stuff stolen. So it's just really weird. And then accidents do happen where sometimes like people buy like same color suitcases, and somebody might pick a thing up and be like, oh, that's not mine, and put it back. I actually did that last time I was at the airport. Somebody bought my exact brand and color of suitcase that I had, same zippers and all that. I was like, you go to the same goddamn Walmart as me? And we put the thing, I went and I grabbed it and I picked it up, and I was like, this is not mine, it's real heavy, and I put it back on there. So at first I would have maybe thought like maybe it was a mistake. He said it was a mistake, but if he did it twice, yeah, you doing some stuff, you doing some dirt. But my thing is, you're connecting it to the person's like sexuality and his orientation. You're saying he stole it because it was a woman's. Like maybe the dude was just stealing some packages. Like, well, not stealing some packages, but stealing some luggage. That's not cool. That's wrong. That there's nothing more that needs to be said about that. But to try to connect it as if people who have similar orientations as him shouldn't be in positions of power because they'll steal luggage from airports if they have positions of power. Like it's a weird line to have outrage, right? Because this is the same person who supported Donald Trump. Dude's got 17 sexual assault allegations. Where was your outrage? Where was your, issues with his orientation? Because clearly his orientation is non-consent. You know, um, the dude was in court for sexual assault allegations while he was president. You know what I mean? He had to settle court cases while he was in there. So it just seems weird how you're saying that he shouldn't have positions of power because of his orientation or his fashion choices, or what he identifies as, even though we have multiple occasions like Matt Gaetz. Matt Gaetz was accused of sex trafficking, where he had receipts of traveling women to have sex with him, one of them being underage. Like, where was your outrage? Did she have an episode on that? So it just seems really selective in how she tries to frame this, as if this is like, validation. Like, see, he wouldn't have victimized these two women, which at the end of the day, hell yeah, like, I'm pissed he took the luggage. That was $3,000 worth of luggage from somebody. Yeah. You might need to get beat up for something like that, man. You steal my package, yeah, come on, square up. You might need to run me the ones. So I get it. I totally get that. I can objectively say, like, no, that was wrong. He needs to be punished by the full extent of the law, pay fines and everything, like, for doing that. But do I think that people who wear dresses should not get to be in government positions because this dude did some bad stuff? No. What does that have to do? Like, he stole the luggage, and you're framing it as he stole it because it was women's luggage, which very much could be the possibility. Maybe he was targeting women's luggage because he was stealing their clothes. Maybe, maybe that's granted. I won't take that from you. If that was the case, it's still just as wrong. I wouldn't care if he was stealing men's luggage and burning the clothes because he don't like men. It's still wrong. I don't care. But the whole thing is that it's like you're trying to frame it in a really weird way, because you found a one person who actually did a crime that pales in comparison to many of the heterosexual elected officials we have. You know what I mean? Like, didn't Lauren was it Marjorie Taylor Greene's husband? Didn't he flash or was it Lauren Boebert's husband? I think it was Lauren Boebert's husband who flashed his penis at a bunch of underage girls at a bar. Like, it's just weird how you have these grievances and these complaints and this outrage over this guy, but you need to keep that same energy for a lot of the people who are in positions of power, who are abusing women and who have abused women and still abuse women. Like, it just seems weird that you're just mad about this and you're not mad about, like, and it could sound like a whataboutism, but it's just like, you mad about a luggage thief when you should be mad, and you can be mad about it because that was wrong, But also, hey, let's talk about, Matt Gates. Let's talk about Donald Trump a little bit. Joe Biden too. Like they can all get the smoke because they all got a bad history and need to have it called out. It's just really weird.
Weird fetishes. You probably wanted to steal, feel a thrill. I'm taking this woman's underwear and all of her stuff, and I'm going to put it on home, and I'm going to feel good. And if only we as a nation were willing to discriminate, right? When we saw him wearing all those dresses and thigh high slits, maybe these young women wouldn't have been victimized. All of this to say, ladies and gentlemen,
That we already went over that, but yeah, like other women probably would have been victimized in that same manner because he probably just maybe he wouldn't have stole from women's baggages, maybe he would have just been stealing from stores or something. Like, clearly if you have a government position, you didn't need to be stealing. So like I said, it's wrong. Wrong is wrong. But it's just weird how you're trying to say if we were willing to discriminate against him, he wouldn't have been stealing baggage. Like, really? Like, do you think that it was his government position that gave him access to those baggages? Like, well, to the baggage that he stole? Because if he's going to baggage claim and stealing these packages, any person can just go over there and steal packages. Not packages, but baggage. Like, it's just weird. Like, your framing is so weird and it's just so non existent. Like, her whole entire tirade that she just went on was just weird.
Only discriminate against weirdos and freaks, and I encourage you to do the same. And that's all I have to say about.
I openly discriminate against weirdos and freaks, and I encourage you to do the same. That is a very terrible thing to say. And it has nothing to do with being inclusive. It has nothing to do with being accepting. It is a dog whistle for people to feel like, oh, weirdos and freaks. Yeah, because everybody who is a prude and has prudish ways of being, similar to how I feel Candace is, who just doesn't like things, like she has openly said, I don't like dudes who wear nail polish. So to you, that's a freak. That's a weirdo because he has nail polish on. And it's like you openly discriminate against weirdos and freaks. So you're going out of your way to disparage other people who do things that you just don't like. It's not even like that they're doing harmful things. And what she tried to do multiple times in this video is she tried to attach the things that people do that she just doesn't like, that make her feel uncomfortable and icky because she doesn't understand them. She tried to attach it to harmful things. Like, oh, I'm not going to put my kids next to you. Who said you have to put your kids next to guys who wear nail polish? Who said that we all just want random guys just going to parks? Like, she kept trying to attach the things she doesn't like to bad things. Like, oh yeah, like these guys that wear nail polishes wear dresses. And that's why she had to find this guy who was wearing dresses and things like that. And she had to be like, oh, well, he was happy in those pictures wearing those clothes, but come to find out, he was stealing clothes. And it's like, oh, okay, yeah, that was wrong. Yeah, he shouldn't have did that. That's bad. He needed to get arrested. I'm a progressive, and I like. What else would you want me? You want me to defend him stealing clothes? Like, no, he stole people's stuff. If he gotta go serve some jail time, throw him in jail. If you gotta pay fines after, pay the fines. He's got that's if he gotta lose his job, he should definitely lose his job for that. That's wrong. But you're trying to advocate for discrimination of people from different sexual orientations because a guy stole some damn baggage? Really? Really? That's your outrage line. Not the guy who traveled across state lines and shot people. He shouldn't get praised at the RNC. Not the guy who had women traveling all across the country to sleep with him and he got PayPal and Cash App receipts. Not him. Not the guy who was literally our president, who was settling out court cases for sexual harassment and sexual misconduct. Not the grab him by the pussy guy. Not him. That's no outrage there. Like it's just weird, right? Because she could have tried to use this to frame a better argument for her silly narrative of why discrimination is okay. And she made some points that I can agree with. Like I said, where it's okay to discriminate against. Oh, I want to go to this doctor because they have a better record of kidney surgery, and I have kidney issues, so I'm going to go there. I'm not going to go to the doctor who's got a good record of heart surgery because I don't need heart stuff. So that's discrimination. Where yes, that is healthy discrimination because you're using rational thought to say what do I need and what do I require, what do I want from my medical professional or whatever, from my dentist. I need a root canal. Let me go to a guy who's got a good record of root canals and not the guy who's got a bad record of root canals. Who people who have issues and their fillings come out and things like that. So it's like there's an argument to be made on that level. But what she did is she took that argument and she tried to put it on her actual negative, harmful, discriminatory practices and prejudices. She tried to attach it onto that and make it seem like her reasoning is justifiable because she's like, I'm just saying what's comfortable for me. But at the same time, you're having this attacking narrative for people who are trying to do the things that are just comfortable for them. So if a guy is comfortable wearing dresses, you don't get to be like, we need to discriminate against him so he's no longer comfortable wearing dresses. Because that would make me comfortable. Your comfort does not get to be prioritized because that person is different. That's the thing that frustrates me about arguments like this, because you don't get to say, "Oh, I'm normal, therefore I'm comfortable not having my kids around guys with nail polish." Okay, fine. But if a dude happens to be walking through a restaurant you're in and he's got black nail polish on, what, you gonna leave? You gonna leave because he wants to sit down and have a hamburger? Like, it's that kind of thing where it's like that's where it becomes discrimination, like, and it goes into prejudice. It goes into being harmful. And you're, instead of advocating for people to be more open minded and be like, I don't understand people who paint their nails, and I'm curious to see why they do it. So if I saw a dude with nail polish on, I might even just ask him like, "Hey man, why you paint your nails?" Like, I'm not saying I would do that, but if you want to advocate for something, why not try to advocate for people learning from one another? And the dude could be like, I just like painting my nails. It feels good. It just makes me feel good. And you could be like, "Oh, it's just that simple." Be like, "Yeah, that's it." I remember one of my dudes, his daughter painted his nails. And he came into work and his nails was painted. And he never wore nail polish ever, or anything like that, so it was weird. And I asked him like, "Yo, what happened to your nails, man?" He was like, "Yesterday, my daughter, man, she was giving me a makeover, and I was able to get everything off, but the nail polish, I couldn't get it off before work." And so it's like, I thought that was adorable. I thought that was so cute. I'm like, man, like father son, father daughter, not father son, father daughter time, and they were spending it together. And she was like, "Daddy, let me give you a makeover." He like, cool. He's comfortable enough in himself to get his nails painted and come into work with his nails painted. And people were like, "Oh, okay, that's funny, that's adorable." You know what I mean? Like, we know your daughter. She's adorable, she's sweet, things like that. And you might see that dude walking down the street and be like, turn your face up. Candace to me is definitely the type of person who will stick her nose up at people. And I don't like that because it's like you sticking your nose up at people just automatically makes me feel like you think you're better than people. Candace Owens really thinks she's better than people. Like, she really genuinely, based off of what I just heard, she thinks she's better than people. And it sucks because she tries to justify that to not just her audience but to herself by, like I said, attaching the things that she doesn't feel comfortable with because she doesn't understand them and she's very ignorant of, and she tries to attach them to that ignorance of her not knowing these things to, oh well, I don't understand them because they're bad, and I'm not a bad person. And those people who do those things, those deviant things, who have kinks and they wear panties, oh, those are evil people. They wanna sexualize children. Like, you know how many dudes you probably walk past who probably got some panties on, you know what I mean, and you ain't even know because they was just a normal looking guy. Miss me with that, man. Um, Listen, this went on for an hour. I called it. I said it was gonna be about an hour. Um, that's where the clip ends around. I remember gauging this right. That's right where that ends. That's all. That's all I have to say about that. She may have gone on and on about that, but like I said, I think that this much information and me talking this much about this stuff, like I said, I stopped it like every 15, 20 seconds to just try to rebuke a lot of things that she was saying. Um, but like, my closing argument is, hey, when you hear people say things like this, where they're trying to equate discrimination, with prejudice, and bias and things like that, there's context with everything. You know what I mean? And most of the time, when people are using the word discrimination, they're using that word to mean somebody is doing something that's not cool. They're saying, I don't want this black person, driving my cab because I think black people can't drive or something like that. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the type of stuff when you hear us complaining or protesting about discrimination, that's when we're not protesting because a gay dude didn't get to get put on the Woman of the Year magazine. And if there are people who are protesting that, that's just like, man, they're gonna make some noise, but we not with that. You're gonna have people who will get angry about everything and get mad about everything, and we not thinking about them. You're gonna have that because, like, I hate to say it, but it's true. People are stupid. So, if somebody sees the Woman of the Year magazine didn't go to my favorite male actor and who happens to be androgynous and maybe wears dresses sometimes, he deserves to be Woman of the Year. Or it's a guy and he identifies as a girl and he deserves to be Woman of the Year. Like, nah, he could just, maybe he can be Person of the Year. I don't know. But if they put a woman on there, let it be. Let it be what it's gonna be. So people will complain about anything and everything. Everything that ever happens online, there's going to be negative reviews, negative comments, negative things that people have to say about it. So just take that and just embrace it. Embrace the existence of that. But when you hear arguments like this, when you hear people say things like this, and openly say things like, I discriminate against freaks and weirdos, think about that kind of person and their character. And think if that's the kind of person that you want to be around, because you might have friends, family members, sons, daughters, aunts, uncles that they might meet who that person thinks is a freak and a weirdo because they're a little different, you know. Or maybe you got a gay brother or a gay sister, and that person thinks that they're a freak and a weirdo, you know. And it's harmful because that keeping that kind of company, she says she doesn't want to get that absorb that poison of a victim mentality. She's absorbed a poison that is so much worse, which is a privilege mentality. It is a pedestal mentality, a better than mentality. That poison is so much worse than any kind of victim mentality where you think everything is just tough on you and you're pessimistic, and you just feel like everything's hard for you. I'd much rather deal with that person than a person who feels like they are the moral pinnacle of society. I genuinely have a distaste for people like this who think that their views on other people in society who are a little different and are new, and things that are becoming normalized that they don't feel comfortable with are bad. I genuinely have a distaste for people who not just feel like that, but advocate for other people to feel like that. Because it's one thing for you to be like, I don't like people like that. I don't care. I genuinely don't care. My problem comes in where you're telling other people, hey, we should all feel like this. We should all discriminate. Because if we all discriminate, we're all going to hate each other. Because we're all different, Candace. We're all different. And the only way we're able to make this thing work is if we stop looking at the things that we don't like about each other and be like, oh, that person's lighter skinned than me. I hate him. I don't like light skins. I don't like dark skins. Like, stop doing that. Like, don't advocate for people to find more things to dislike about one another. That is such a harmful thing. And so I think that just go into things like this with an open mind, as I tried to do. And like I said, it did get me a little frustrated. I got very frustrated hearing a lot of her ignorance because it's just so frustrating, so hard to listen to. And but yeah, just try to go into things like this with an open mind. Just try to listen, just try to hear things, and you know, sometimes you might learn something, sometimes you might do what I did and just get a headache. But at the end of the day, I recognize that it is important when you hear things like this to have a counter. You have to have counter arguments for things like this. You have to have things that refute harmful narratives, discriminatory narratives, prejudice narratives. You have to have a counter to that. because people deserve to have the opportunity to hear both sides of many of these arguments, and not just have an echo chamber of things that reflect their already biased thoughts of people who aren't like them. So if you did stick around for this hour and 15 minutes, it's been a minute. It's a long video, I know, but there was a lot to say. So I know I talked your head off, but I thank you to the audience who's been watching these last few videos and sitting through all of them and really like rocking with me and listening. Um, because I said this before, but I actually have a very weird self-esteem issue where I get very anxious about videos being too long, and I try to rush myself, and I try to say everything I want to say in a certain amount of time so we can get moving, because I used to get comments of people saying this video is too long, he's talking too much, why does he pause the video so much? I used to get those comments and it bugged me, and it upset me. So it gave me an anxiety to where I felt like I had to speed everything up to appease everyone's short attention span. But as people in my audience have said, if it's interesting, people will sit and they will stay and they will listen and they'll watch. So I thank y'all for riding with me and rocking with me and listening and commenting and letting your voices be heard. And even if you disagree with me, you make let me know, because I've been very active in my comment section. You know, going back and forth with people who agree and disagree. So I appreciate you guys. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section about what she had to say and what I had to say. And yeah, thank y'all. Thank y'all very much for rocking with me. I really appreciate it. Peace out, everybody. Take care of yourselves. Be good people.